Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am very excited because I'm going to be talking about the very best luxury beauty products from 2025 so far. I cannot believe we are halfway through the year. It is just mind-blowing to me how quickly the years are just going by. But we have had a lot of good makeup releases coming out. If you are not new to my channel, I'm all about having a curated luxury beauty collection, so you are not going to see me talk about all these new products and claim they're my holy grails, or you absolutely must buy them, or they're must-haves. I'm very selective about what I purchase, and then also what I recommend to you guys. I really recommend that you are thoughtful with your purchases and you keep on watching your favorite luxury beauty channels and just seeing what they are continuously talking about, so you don't get swamped up with the hype and just purchase things that are not a necessity and that are just going to sit in your drawer collecting dust, because we don't want that. We want to actually use our makeup. So these to me are just products that I highly recommend. I will talk about if they are holy grail products or if I still prefer other ones. So if you want to see all my favorite luxury beauty products from 2025 so far, just keep watching. I did again want to keep this as a curated list, so I tried to keep it to a top 10 list. I think I cheated a little bit, but this is mostly a top 10 list. So let's just start out. I'm going to start out with maybe the blushes first, because I feel like I'm a blush girl and I just love blushes. So let's talk about some really exciting releases. So we have these Westman Atelier. These are the Baby Cheeks Face Trio Sculpting Powder Duos. And then we also have these Baby Cheeks Powder Blush Duos. So Westman Atelier released either like a contour and blush duo or just a blush duo. And I chose to just pick up both. And I chose a color story that I thought would speak to me the most, that I would prefer the most. I don't necessarily think that I need to purchase all the products in a category just to review them. And I really like both of these. However, Petal and Biscuit is my favorite one. So I like the contour and blush duo in this color story. I still really like this blush duo, but I just think this color story, it's gorgeous, but I just think this cooler tone suits me a little bit better. So we have a cool tone contour shade in here that's really easy to use. It is not crazy pigmented, and I will say when you swatch them, they almost swatch a bit patchy, but they are very blendable on the complexion. These are a completely matte formula, so you're not going to have any sheen, any shimmer particles. But my favorite thing about these, see, you can see they swatch terribly. This is the Biscuit shade, the contour shade, and this is Petal, the blush shade. So Petal is her like most well-known blush shade. It's very classic, just like that classic pink shade that works for so many different people. And Biscuit is like that classic contour shade from her collection. That's a cool toned beige shade, basically, that works for fair up to medium complexions. And I would say the same for this. I think if you have a medium tan complexion, you can make this work because these are darker shades. You can sheer them out by just applying a little bit. My favorite thing about this is how blurring this is. So this is matte, but it is very, very blurring on the skin. If you are someone that has texture on the skin, you are going to love this because of how it just blurs the complexion. And same for this blush duo. It is very blurring on the skin, but I just don't reach for this one as much as the Petal and Biscuit. But this formula is very beautiful. It's not like that silky smooth powder that we get a lot lately. Westman Atelier is a clean brand, so it feels a little bit drier in formulation, but it doesn't look dry. It doesn't look patchy on the skin. Easy to blend, easy to work with. I just really like these powder duos, and I think they're beautiful. I do not like the packaging. I think it looks a little, it doesn't look that luxurious to me, especially just in comparison to some of her other releases where I think the packaging is just special. To me, this is just like meh, but I really do like this formulation and I can't say enough good things about it. Another blush formula that I have just been really loving is this YSL Make Me Blush Powder Blush in the shade 06 Rose Haze. So initially, they just released this in Canada and the UK, and they did not release this in the US. But I'm so happy I can talk about this because this is available in the US and it is permanent in the US. So Rose Haze is this gorgeous, this is just a beautiful pinky beige shade. It has a little bit of peach to it, but nothing crazy. Like it definitely leans more pink, like a nudie pink, than it does peach in any way. It's just beautiful. It's the perfect neutral pink shade that has a little bit of warmth. It has like the perfect, it's like a neutral tone blush. It's not too cool tone, but not too warm tone either. So I think it will just flatter a lot of different skin colors. I really, really like this texture and this formula as well, because again, we have that blurring formulation. It is similar to the Westman Atelier with how it blurs the complexion. It just softens everything and makes everything look really smooth, especially in this area where you probably have the most texture. I just love how it smooths out that area. I have heard some people have said this is a patchy formula, or that it was, I think it was patchy that people were saying about the matte formula. I don't agree with that at all. I think this is very smooth. Like, it is incredibly finely milled. It feels silky smooth to the touch. If anything, this feels drier, and I would say this is a silkier formula to apply if you are more of a beginner. I think you're going to have an easier time with this. I do not like the shimmer shades in this, so I just wanted to disclose that because I do think they are different. The shimmer in this formulation, like especially, I tried the shade 44, so I didn't try all the shimmers, but 44 in this collection, which is their Nude Vanilla, I forget how to pronounce it, but that classic nude, pink nude shade that YSL comes out with. It is just so shimmery. Like, it's that obvious shimmer. You can see shimmer particles on the skin. It's just that very over-the-top sheen where it's very noticeable. So I do prefer the matte formula because I just think it looks blurring on the complexion. I think it looks really flattering. This color is just to die for. It is so beautiful. It is brightening. It is youthful on the complexion. Very similar to like the NARS Behave blush shade or the Valentino 09 shade. I have already done comparisons on that, but this one leans a little bit more pink, and it's just a little bit more of a blurring formula. It doesn't have any sort of sheen to it. I think it's just very flattering on the complexion, and I really like this. I also like the packaging. I think the packaging is just really cute. So if you're someone that likes luxury beauty because of the packaging, this packaging is just really cute. It has got a little bit of hard pan, but you can just use Scotch tape to get rid of that, and I don't mind that. To me, that doesn't dissuade me from using this. I don't typically apply powder underneath my blushes, so that's probably my own fault that I've created this hard pan, but it's just beautiful. Like I said, silky smooth, easy to apply, easy to blend. You can apply it without powdering your skin underneath. Like I said, I usually apply powder over top, and it's just a lovely, beautiful formulation. Can't get enough. And then we have these Merit Flush Bombs. So these are not a new formula this year. This has been a previous formula that Merit has released. These are shade extension, and Lusitano and Archival are my favorite shades. I also have Bespoke from the new collection, and that one I just don't use as often. And I love these as finishing touches or adjusters. So I love to apply these as a finishing touch to finish off my makeup. So I will actually go in with all my powder products, powder bronzer, powder highlighter, powder blush, even a powder to just kind of pore perfect my makeup, or just, you know, oil absorb a little bit of oil. And I will bring back skin texture using these blushes. So what you do is you will just apply a little bit. I like to apply from the palm of my hand, apply a little bit of color, and then just tap it onto the cheeks. And it just brings the most beautiful skin texture back to your complexion. So what happens is you are going in with these powder products, and sometimes at the end of your makeup, things can just look a little bit like false. They can just look a little bit not super skin-like because you've obviously applied a bunch of powder to your skin. So this is the shade Lusitano, that peachy pink, and there's Archival, that beautiful mauvey pink. Love both of those. So you can just go in with a little bit of this, and because these are so sheer and they also have a little bit of that glossy finish, they're not like ultra glossy. They're not as glossy as the new Dior cream blushes that came out, but they do have definitely a glossier finish than some other products. But what they do is they will just bring that skin texture back. It just brings your skin back to life. And because they're so sheer, they don't disrupt any powder makeup that you have underneath your makeup. And again, that sheer quality to them just allows you to get that little bit of color payoff without it disturbing makeup, but it brings your skin texture. It makes your skin just look more like skin. It brings the reality back to your skin. And also, say like right now I have a warmer eye tone. Say I went in with a cooler tone powder blush. I can go over top and finish off my makeup with this warmer tone. Just touch it over top, and it will tie the eye look together with the cheeks a little better. And again, same if you are wearing maybe like a cool toned outfit, or your lips are cool toned, or your eyes more cool toned, you can just finish it off with one of these, and it will just alter the color of your blush a little bit, and it will make it look a little bit, it will just kind of make everything look more cohesive if the color story is more balanced. So again, to cool off a look, I would use Archival. To warm up a look, I would use Lusitano. But I adore these for not only adjusting the color a little bit, But to bring back your skin texture, this just adds that reality back, and I can't get enough of them. I honestly, so Dior just released their cream blushes. I just really prefer these. I think these are not only a better formula, they just look more skin-like than the Dior ones. The Dior ones have a higher pigment and they're glossier. So I just don't think they perform as well. I think they're beautiful if you just use them alone, if you're using them with all liquid or cream products, but I don't think they perform well or as nicely over top of powder products like these Merit ones do. And I also don't think they perform as nice if you layer a powder over top because they just have more pigment. Sometimes the powder can cling over top, where you can use these underneath just as a typical cream blush formula and use a powder over top to just increase the longevity. I would say that's probably the main downfall of these, is that they're not the most long lasting. They're not going to last like a 12-hour day, but they're just beautiful, beautiful colors and textures. I can't say enough good things about this formulation, clearly, because I've rambled on about them. And let's just talk a little bit about, I'm not going in a specific order today. I figured I would jump around more because usually I go in a specific order. I'm going to move on to eyes because I've been really disappointed by a lot of eye products, and I'm also not reaching for a lot of eye palettes lately. I'm just not interested in an eye palette, especially larger ones. So for this to intrigue me says a lot about it. This is the NARS Laguna Eye Quad, and I just wanted to again update you. Dior has had either like the best makeup or stuff I'm just not a huge fan of lately. But that Dior Quint I tried out, ended up hating it. I returned it. That formula is not good at all. So I think this NARS palette is beautiful. This color story is gorgeous. They are a neutral leaning warm color story, and this formula is honestly, it's beautiful and no one talks about it. So this was limited edition last year, 2024, which is when I purchased it, but I wanted to mention it because they re-released this for their summer collection and they actually made it permanent because I'm guessing that everyone else had the same sentiment about it and they just thought it was really, really good. This is just a beautiful color story. So we have these gorgeous shimmers. These just have a beautiful sheen. They're not an over-the-top shimmer. They don't have shimmer, chunky particles. They aren't glitter. They're not going to fall all over your face. They're just silky smooth. They're buttery. This formula just glides on. It's gorgeous. We have this really lovely matte shade, which again is buttery soft. It's very finely milled. It performs gorgeously. And then we have this shade, which is actually, it is a shimmer and it has a little bit more intermittent shimmer particles to it. Very similar to a Chantecaille Luminescent eye shade. That kind of same. It is a bit drier of a consistency. And it has a little bit of that sparkle, but again, it is creamier than some of those more actual sparkle eyeshadows. It's still not as intense as like a Pat McGrath shimmer or a Natasha Denona. It still has that subtlety to it, but this color story is beautiful. You can see it's warm, but it's not too orangey warm. It's that gorgeous, summery, neutral warm that just flatters so many different eye colors. If you have green eyes, this is going to make your green eyes just pop. I have blue eyes and I think it's very flattering. And I think if you have brown eyes, because it has that beautiful warmth to them, it's going to really bring out the warmer tones in your eyes and just be absolutely stunning. So I think this is just going to work for so many different eye colors against complexions. I think if you have a cooler skin tone, this will contrast a little bit and look very flattering. But if you have warmer skin tones, it's just going to blend very nicely into the complexion. And if I had to keep any eye palette in my collection that wasn't limited edition, it would be this one. I think it is just stunning. I think it is very useful in so many different situations. You can wear it for daytime, but you can dress it up for nighttime. And then I also wanted to mention some newcomers. So this is the Armani Eye Tint in the shade 25M Sandalwood. This is just a beautiful neutral brown. It is neutral brown, but it is leaning a little bit warmer. And this I love because you can see, you can get quite a lot of pigment, but you can also really blend it into the skin. This is just going to be very messy. And you can see it's very sheared out. So you can get that very subtle, just really light crease tone. So you can just apply it all over the lid for an everyday basic if you're someone that just really likes a matte eye on an everyday basis. And it'll just give you a bit of definition, a little bit of depth without it being a ton of color payoff. But again, you can see you can build it up and you can get more of that deeper tone. So I like that you can use it in a way where you can really shear it out and get this lighter, beautiful, neutral brown, or you can build it up in more specific areas without buffing it out so much, and you can get a little bit of that deeper tone. Layers beautifully, you can build it up. It never looks thick, it never looks heavy. Once it sets down, it is set. It is not going to move all day long. And I really like the skin-like effect you get from it. It doesn't dry down. It is a liquid shadow. You do get that benefit where it almost looks like a cream. So it's very flattering on mature eyes or if you have drier eye types. But since it is a liquid shadow, it is not going to budge or move. Sometimes cream eyeshadows can shift a little bit throughout the day, but because this is a liquid, it sets down to be budge proof. I just really like this. And again, if you're someone that just likes an easy everyday look, this is perfect without having to buy an eyeshadow palette. You can just use this, set it down with your bronzer if you want, and you're good to go. If you are someone that likes a little bit of shimmer, I have to talk about these NARS Total Seduction eyeshadow sticks. This is the shade Hustle. I think this is such a gorgeous tone. This is the perfect bronzy gold champagne shade. It is the most stunning color that I've ever seen. It just makes my eyes pop when I apply this. I'm wearing this today I actually applied all these today. I did film a tutorial, so that will be the next video coming. But this is just so flattering, and I really like this because this is a sophisticated sheen. This is a very subtle sheen. You're not going to get a lot of shimmer particles. You're not going to get a chunky glitter. You're not going to get something that's like ultra light reflecting or light refracting because there's a lot of shimmer particles. This is just a very smooth, consistent sheen. So if you're someone like me that just doesn't like I don't want my eyeshadow to look glittery or chunky or have that distinct intermittent shimmer. I like when the shimmer particles are very packed and close together, so it just gives me that soft sheen. This is just very subtle. So if you like that subtle effect without it being over the top, this is perfect for daytime, but you can also dress it up for nighttime as well. Such a great shadow formula. And again, once it sets, it is not going to move all day long. It is budge proof. It is smudge proof. So for these hot, humid weather coming up, especially for the summer months, this is perfect. Obviously, this is my favorite shade, but they have so many different color offerings. These come in matte and also shimmer shades. So they released the matte collection, I believe, last year. I prefer the shimmer shades and whatever color speaks to you. Like if you're more of a champagne girl, they have this in a champagne shade. If you like a deeper bronze, they have a deeper bronze. I think that one's Laguna. I just really like the performance of these. I like these are more subtle, everyday friendly versus it being that intermittent shimmer that's a little bit more nighttime appropriate. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Let's talk about highlighters because there have been some highlighter releases that I have just been loving. And I really quickly wanted to mention this Chanel Jouet de Lumiere multi-use eyeshadow and highlighter palette. If this was not limited edition, this would have made my list. But since you cannot purchase this anymore, I didn't want to talk about it. This is my favorite eyeshadow / highlighter palette. Gorgeous baked gelée powders that just melt into the complexion. They're stunning. I like that you get a variety of different shades, but I don't want to talk about this because you can't get this anymore. Something that's very similar in formulation is the Dior Forever Luminizer. So the Dior Forever Glow Luminizer in the shade 02 Gold Halo. My mom actually picked this up in the shade 03 Pink Halo. It looks stunning on her more cool tone light complexion. So whatever shade you purchase, the halo shades are the ones that are more subtle. They're more of that skin-like color versus it being like, I don't know, like a lavender shade. So for me, I just prefer those shades. So Gold Halo is actually more of the champagne shade where, what is it, Champagne Halo or it's Nude Halo, that's the one. It's actually more gold, it's that yellow gold. So if you want a more champagne neutral nude shade, I would go for the gold because it's actually the champagne shade. But this is a baked gelée. So baked gelées have this really unique property where they're actually baked down. They start off as liquids, they're baked down to a powder. And because of that technology, they really melt into the complexion. So they become a cream-like product. So if you like the effect of cream highlighters, but you don't like that they transfer, this gives you that same effect because it does melt right in. This is definitely more of, like you can see, it's that type of glow that is that wet effect. So your cheeks look a little bit wet. They look a little bit glossy, which I absolutely adore. I love this formulation. It is stunning. You do need a little bit of a denser brush to apply it, but once you buff these into the skin and really just buff it into the skin and blend it into the skin, it just becomes one with the skin and looks so gorgeous. I did, though, want to mention this Prada highlighter because I just picked it up. I've been playing with it, and I do really like this formula, and these formulas are different. Where this is a baked gelée, and this, I did say it melts into the skin. This also does, but this is not a baked gelée. This is a typical powder formula, but it is very creamy. It is very emollient for a powder. It is not that gel powder like the Gucci one, but this is very soft and silky. It has that creamy quality. It almost feels like it's a cream powder hybrid. And because of that creamy effect, it also really melts into the skin. But again, this gives a different effect, where this Dior one is that wet, glossy effect. This Prada highlighter, it is very natural. It is very skin-like. So it's not going to give you that glossy effect, if you can see. The Dior one is going to be a little bit more intense because it gives you that wet, glossy effect, where this is just going to kind of become one into the complexion. This does not have any shimmer particles, any sort of glitter particle to it. It is very, very smooth, very finely milled, like I said, very creamy, and you can't actually detect any individual shimmer particles. So if you're someone that's highlighter averse, if you really like that effect that, where's a highlighter? Like the Victoria Beckham Balm or the Chanel Balm Essential, those highlighters that don't have the glitter or the shimmer particles, and you like that effect. But again, you like that liquid highlighter effect, but you don't want your hair to get stuck in it. You don't want it to be sticky, or you don't want it to remove makeup underneath. Sometimes with those cream highlighters, they can remove makeup underneath just because they're so creamy. This gives you that same effect, but again, it's not as glossy as this Dior. This Dior almost has like a sheerness to it, where this feels like a thicker powder, if that makes sense. So they're just different powders, and they work well for different situations, where this, great for that wet effect, that it's not metallic, but it is that glossy effect where it gives that health to your cheekbones, where this is very skin-like. It just gives you a little bit of dimension, I guess I want to say. This is the pink shade, and it's honestly, it's so beautiful. This creamy, buttery, smooth, easy to blend quality is just very gorgeous. I wonder if you can tell the difference on my fingers, where I can get a little bit better. So this one is the Dior and this one is the Prada. So they're just a different effect, but they're both very, very beautiful. It just depends on the effect you want. I really love both of them, and because the Prada is so new, I can't say that it outperforms this Dior, but just know I really, really like both of these, and I don't know which one to put in my absolute favorite, because right now I just really like both of them, and I think it just, the preference for you will just be whatever effect you like better. I will say this Prada one is so expensive. It's $110 in Canada. I could not believe that I paid that much for a powder highlight, but it is really stunning and beautiful. So I don't know, whichever one you prefer the sounds of, I would say I would recommend that one. They just give a different effect on the skin, but they're both beautiful. Let's talk about bronzers. So I first want to talk about this liquid bronzer. This is the Westman Atelier Sun Tone Bronzing Drops in the shade Soleil Parfait 1. So this is a liquid bronzer that Westman Atelier released. This is only available in 3 shades. I wish we had more of a shade range, especially because I can use the shade 1 and I have like a light medium skin tone. So I think if you are very fair, this might be a little bit too dark for you. You can definitely sheer these out. These are very blendable on the skin. So I always like to apply them to my palm and then apply them to my skin from there. But you can see kind of the color that this gives. I really like these liquid bronzing drops, because these are a bronzing drop that has no sheen in them. A lot of bronzing drops that come out on the market, they have shimmer to them. They have little individual shimmer particles. You can see them, especially when you are in natural daylight. You can see those shimmer particles, and I just don't think it's as flattering. Where this is completely matte, and I really like that because I just think it looks more skin-like, especially when it comes to a liquid bronzer. This is easy to apply, easy to blend. The only thing I will say is do not use a wet sponge with this because it will remove makeup underneath. If you apply this with a brush, I really like the Hourglass brush to apply this with. It's stunning. It's definitely a sheer liquid bronzer. Like it doesn't have any sort of pigment to it where it's going to add coverage. So it is very beautiful as a liquid bronzer because it just looks so skin-like, and it dries down to a matte finish. It doesn't dry down to a powder finish, but it does dry down so it's not going to move throughout the day. It is very hot right now where I live. I mean, I guess not compared to some places, but for where I live in British Columbia, it is very hot, and it's definitely a little bit humid, and this performs beautifully. It doesn't move anything, and it just looks gorgeous all throughout the day. It is different than like my Makeup by Mario, that little compact that I have. That one is very emollient, where this dries down on the skin, and it is different than my Chantecaille bronzing drops they're not drops, that bronzer that I have, the anti-aging bronzer. The bronzing face tint, that from Chantecaille, it is different because that bronzing face tint is very warm toned, and it also For me, I use it as like a foundation replacement, where this I would not use on its own as a foundation replacement. The Chantecaille is very blurring on the skin, where this does not replace, it doesn't add any coverage to the complexion, so it's not going to replace a foundation or anything like that. I like this specifically as a liquid bronzer. This formula is stunning. I love that it dries down, doesn't move throughout the day. It is really, really beautiful. The tone is gorgeous. It will slightly warm up the skin, but it is not orangey at all. So this is perfection. Another bronzer that I just really have fallen in love with is this Dior Forever Nude Bronze in the shade 02 Light. So this is a really beautiful bronzer because it's not a very high contrast bronzer. So it's not going to add a ton of color. It is definitely sheerly pigmented. So I have to really apply it like this to get a lot of color payoff. And even so, it just gives me a very subtle amount of color. Can you even see that? So it's just that swatch here. It almost is like 2 shades darker than my complexion. So it just is like a complexion enhancer versus it being a harsh bronzer. And I really like this formula because it is a demi-matte finish. So I feel like there's a little bit of a better swatch, but I really like this formula. And again, I feel like it's almost similar to the Westman Atelier where it doesn't swatch the best. It's a very interesting texture. It is silky smooth, finely milled, but it feels almost waxy. But because of that, I feel like it has this really beautiful skin-like texture, especially on the complexion. Even though this is not a baked gelée, I do find because of that like waxiness, it does really melt into the skin very beautifully. This is the most similar. If you just think the Hermes bronzer is out of your price range, this is the most similar, in my opinion. The Hermes is definitely more finely milled, more silky smooth, buttery. But I think the effect on the skin and the finish is very, very similar. So there is the Hermes Atlas and there's the Dior. They both have that beautiful demi-matte finish where they are not completely matte, but also they don't have like a sheen or anything to them. This is just the most similar formula that I have found. I still prefer the Hermes if I am going to be completely frank, and I always am very honest. But I think this is a very nice option, and I think it is a very beautiful formulation if you're just like, this is way too expensive. But I still prefer the Hermes, but I do really like this Dior. I think it is very beautiful. Has a lot of color offerings. I still think they need to expand the shade range a little bit more and come out with lighter tones, but also deeper tones. It would be nice if they had a variation because I feel like Dior runs quite warm. It'd be nice if they had more neutral offerings and cooler toned offerings. But this Hermes pulls very warm as well. So you're not going to get a lot of offerings with that Hermes one. But this is just a really nice formula. Again, I do like the packaging. I think it just looks nice. This is just such a good improvement from their past formula of their bronzers, it was just such a powdery, like dull formula. It looked chalky and dry on the skin, where this doesn't look dry at all. It is very long wearing. I think it claims to be waterproof, at least this version. And it's just very beautiful. So I do like that. Has a little bit of a sunscreeny scent. It smells like sunscreeny, coconutty almost. So it doesn't smell perfumey like a lot of their other products, but this has just been a winner for me. And if we're on the topic of Dior, let's just move on to foundations because I have 2 favorites from Dior and I didn't know how to narrow them down because I honestly use them both such a similar amount and they both serve different purposes. So I'm just going to talk about both of them and I'll be quick about it. This Dior Forever Hydra Nude is a beautiful light coverage foundation. I do wear the shade 2.5N. This is supposed to be a Perfection Natural 24-hour hydration foundation enriched with hyaluronic acid. I don't really care about the hyaluronic acid part, but I do think this is a beautiful complexion product. If you like blurring and smoothing products that give you a very skin-like natural finish, this foundation is gorgeous. It is the most similar to me if I could make a comparison to the Chantecaille Future Skin Gel Foundation that comes in the jar. However, this does have a perfumey fragrance to it. It's overwhelming. I do not like it, but I still think you get that similar effect to the Chantecaille. It is very beautiful on the skin. Skin blurring, skin perfecting without it being a lot of coverage. I would say this is buildable to a medium, but you're not going to be able to build it higher than that. This is going to work great for all different skin types, no matter if you're very dry, mature, or oily, because it does have that skin finish to it. It doesn't leave your skin looking greasy or dewy or too hydrated. And I just think it's such a great everyday foundation. If you want something that looks truly like skin, this honestly looks like my skin, but better. So I love that. But then I also really like this Dior Forever Skin Perfect Face Stick. This again is in the shade 2.5N. However, this is definitely better for dry, mature, normal skin types. If you have very oily skin, I don't know how well this will perform because it is quite a glowy finish. So if you are someone that likes that glowy finish, if you like that hydrated look to the skin, you're gonna love this. However, even though this is glowy on the skin, this performs really beautifully in hot, humid weather. I took this to Mexico and Hawaii, and now that it's really hot outside, I can still wear it and I don't have any issues with it transferring throughout the day or looking too greasy or separating or fading. It honestly wears very beautifully and it remains consistent with how you applied at the beginning of the day to how it looks at the end of the day. So it's very amazing for that effect. And it's a great travel foundation because it's so easy to pack with. And it's just that stick. I've used quite a lot of it. And I do think this is really beautiful. I think this is a great multi-purpose foundation because it starts out at a medium coverage, but you can really sheer it out on the skin, especially if you have a lot of skincare on or you mix it with a moisturizer. You can really sheer this out to get a light coverage, but it is also very adaptable. So you can build it up on the skin and it can, I wouldn't say it doesn't look good as a full coverage foundation. It just can look a little heavy. So I would only wear it as like a high medium coverage, but it is buildable in that way where you can't sheer it out, but it is buildable. And it just looks so pretty on the skin because it has that same smoothing effect, that same pore perfecting, blurring quality to it that this Dior foundation does. So I think it just depends on what type of foundations you like on an everyday basis, where I would suggest either one, but you don't have to get both, obviously. And I still prefer my Chanel Soufflage Lusitano Tint foundation, but I think these are beautiful contenders and they're still in my top 10 foundations of all time, but they do not replace Holy Grails. This is a Holy Grail stick foundation, I would say, but if you're just looking for that convenience factor, but these haven't replaced my Holy Grail products, but they're definitely really, really beautiful and they are my favorite of 2025 so far. And then we had a powder come out and that is this Givenchy Prisme Libre mattifying and blurring setting powder in the shade 03 Voile Rosé. I really like this. The color correcting properties, I don't really notice them on my skin very much because this isn't like a high coverage product. This just gives you a subtle amount of color. But again, I don't really notice the color correcting properties of this. You might if you have maybe redness to your skin or some other color correcting, if you need color correcting in your skin. But this is just a really nice blurring and mattifying setting powder. This does not have any shimmer particles to it. They reformulated their loose powder to be a lot more shimmery. I do not like shimmer in my loose or pressed powders because I just like everything to look like skin. And this is definitely this sort of powder. This is the closest to the Clé de Peau refining pressed powder. They both do not look like powder on the skin. They give you that undetectable powder look. If you don't like the look of powder on your skin, I really recommend this. So if you have super oily skin and you need a high oil control powder, I don't think this will be enough oil control for you, but it's really nice to touch up, or if you're just setting your makeup for the day, or if you have dry, normal combo skin, I think this will work well for you because I just use it as a finishing touch of my makeup. I can actually use this pressed powder under my eyes, which I normally wouldn't suggest doing. It's just beautiful. It is finely milled. It is pore perfecting. It is blurring, smoothing, all those qualities that I love in complexion products. You can't detect it on the skin. If you're someone that just can't access Clé de Peau or you think it's just too overpriced for this powder, this is definitely something I'd recommend because I do think it is second best. Clé de Peau is still my absolute favorite, but this is coming in at second place and I still really like this powder. And I think it's definitely really nice. It's finely milled, it's smooth, it feels silky smooth, but it's not the same as I think people were hoping this would replace before they reformulated the loose powder. But the loose powder prior to this did still have a little bit of like shimmer particles, which I didn't enjoy. So I actually really prefer this over even the previous loose powder. I think it's more beautiful and more skin-like in my opinion. I just don't like shimmer particles sitting on my skin where they're noticeable. And so I think this is an improvement, but if you were a huge fan of that loose powder, you might think it's too matte, but I really, really love this. It's gorgeous. And finally, we have these Merit Signature. These are the sheer lip liners. Beverly Hills is my favorite color. This is just a really great lip liner, but it is not a typical lip liner where it's going to give you a lot of definition. This almost looks like you've applied lip liner, but you've blended it in, which is what I always do with my lip liners. So I love this formula. It looks like it gives you like a lived-in lip liner look, which is my preference because I just think it looks more natural. It's not going to give you stark and harsh lines. This color is gorgeous. It will leave a little bit of a tint behind, but because it is sheer, it has more of like a glossy finish. So it's not going to be super long wearing. It's not going to wear like 12 hours or even 8 hours, but it will leave a little bit of a tint behind. Again, my mom really loves this as well. She does have a different shade, but I think this is just a really flattering, great everyday nude. It's like my lip color, but better. So I love using that on my lip line and filling in my lips. And then I'll just go in with a gloss over top to finish everything off. But that is everything for all my absolute favorite products of 2025 so far. I would love to hear from you. Please let me know your favorite products down below, because I would love to know if I should pick anything else up, or if we have any similar favorites, or again, if I need to try some new products out. Please let me know down below. We'll keep the conversation going. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.